This table talk is made possible by Mental Health Matters, a newsletter from themighty.com. I'm Ashley, and I'm joined by...
I'm Skye.
And I'm Jess.
I'm Camara.
And today we are talking about the joy that is medical anxiety. I do not know about you all, but this has been the bane of my existence truly since my cancer diagnosis, because that's when I feel like everything followed that was bad. And prior to that, it never was fun, but it was never awful. And so I would love to talk through a little bit of that, because I know some of you share that experience. And I really like to talk to like what we're feeling anxiety over, if there's anything specific, where that impact lies, and then the things that have helped us along the way. So just starting off with like what I feel anxiety over and how that kind of manifests, it's really just all of it. So to put that kind of a little bit more broken out, I do not like the phone call that leads up to making the appointment. I don't like all of the new information that you have to share with a new provider. And then even if it's not a new provider, you have to rehash everything. And so just that, all that process is like a barrier to actually getting the thing I need, which is usually like 5 minutes. And so I have to do this whole like dance ahead of that. And I just don't like all of it. And then you get bad news sometimes. So like that's really where I am. And so I will avoid it, like fully avoid it until it's super urgent. Like I need a medication, I'm super behind on a scan I need to have, or I'm genuinely feeling awful and have to go in. So that's just kind of where I feel that anxiety.
I can really relate to that. I think also like based on past experiences, it makes me dread having to like have those experiences again. And so I'm like, okay, well, if I don't make the appointment or make the call, then it won't happen. But yeah, the amount of times I've had to rush into a CVS and be like, hey, can I get a 3-day emergency supply while I wait for the new prescription to come in? It happens more than it should. I've been taking medication since I was 8. I should be better about getting refills, but it still feels a bit nerve-wracking. And I actually had a bit of a, not a scary health issue come up, but it was an unpleasant GI issue that happened. And it probably would have been better had I actually done what I've been meaning to do for the past year and find a new gastroenterology office. So instead of like acknowledging the problems or actually, seeing the doctor who could help me or, taking care of them in any way, because if I do take care of them, then I admit the problem's real, and that's a whole other anxiety bag. So I ended up calling, a nurse's line, and luckily I gave, all the details about why I hadn't been seeing a GI doc, and luckily she helped advocate for me and set me up with an appointment with a provider I'm actually like interested in seeing. So that was really nice. I always forget that there are people there who can help with the anxiety and help you advocate for yourself. And I think that would really help me get what I need sooner and before I have to rush into CVS like that.
Just all I want to respond to is that is very relatable, and I find myself doing the exact same thing. What about you, Camara?
For me, I feel like the way that insurance is set up and the way that we have to get into appointments, whether I can't even imagine having to see a specific specialist, let alone just your primary care doctor. I obviously like try to find specific mental health professionals and such for my ADHD and anxiety, but even just trying to find a new primary care, the wait lists that there already are, even within my network, it takes forever to like figure out, oh, is this going to be the right fit for me? Or is this person gonna be a good doctor? Like, what are their reviews? Great. They have a wait list for 2 months and it's just primary care. And I can't believe that. Like one of my experiences I had, my first time seeing a psychiatrist, which was many years ago, really turned me off to the whole experience and never wanting to basically see a psychiatrist again. I went in for my appointment, was on my time of the month, so I had cramps and wasn't feeling too great. And I told her, like, hey, I'm here to learn about the options, but I'm not here really wanting medicine. My goal is not to be medicated. She's like, why are you here then? I'm like, to learn and see if I need it. And then I went on to explain to her what I was dealing with anxiety and panic attacks. And she would be like, nope, that's not anxiety. Nope, that's not a panic attack. You don't have these 2 symptoms. I'm like, are you just reading off of a list and I didn't list every single thing perfectly? She's like, you look uncomfortable. I'm like, yeah, I have uterus and it's in pain. So that's where we're at. And just having that cold demeanor experience. I know not all psychiatrists are like that, but oh, it turned me off from ever even wanting to take the time to find someone basically devaluing my mental health and everything. So it's already hard enough, whether it's a primary care, a psychiatrist, or a specialist. Like I do have this like fear of like, are they going to have good bedside manner and treat you well? Like that's already half the battle.
Yeah, I think for me, like there's the other day when we were all talking about this, I was like, "Oh, my anxiety is really around all the stuff that has to happen before the appointment." And as I'm listening to y'all, I'm like, but it's also tied into past experience." And so it is that like it's both. But there's like that's the whole process, right? Like I need it to feel urgent to me, whether it's actually urgent or not. And then I need to understand how I'm going to pay for it, which is overwhelming regardless of whether you have insurance, because insurance is just a bunch more paperwork. And then I'm already like preparing my brain for how overwhelming it's going to be once the appointment is over. And then all the different statements start coming in from insurance and the doctor's office and the lab and this person and that person. And suddenly this person's not in network, even though the office was. And like my brain goes and like thinks through all those things. And so I'm like allotting energy ahead of time to those things. Like, okay, I know this might happen. So even if I called ahead and even if I asked, are your providers in network with this insurance? And even if I checked it on the insurance website, and even if I took those steps, I know that I need to reserve some energy for the fact that that may not work out the way that I expect it to. And so I'm like borrowing from today for tomorrow. And it feels like something's always different than what it was supposed to be, no matter what questions I ask. And then before like I can even get to that point, right? Like I have to have the appointment, but before I can have the appointment, I have to schedule it. And so to do that, there's all these calendars. There's my calendars, there's the provider's calendars. And then like how am I going to feel on any given day? Like I don't know. I absolutely don't know how I'm going to feel on that day. But so I'm like looking at everything happening around that day. Well, there's not too much the day before, so I'll probably be okay to make it to this kind of appointment on that day. And it's so much. And then the actual scheduling, like I don't like phone calls. I don't like being on the phone. And then, if you call them and you have to leave a voicemail and then they call you back, and then you have to have those calendars up again and you have to like very quickly get your mind right in the back, like back in the right spot, and like just it's so much. So yeah, there's the everything around it versus the appointment itself. But then there's also that past experience of things don't work out the way that I expect them to, even if I do that upfront planning.
I don't know about you all, but I almost have my own like scale of like which appointments I'll avoid the most and which doctors I'll avoid the most. Of like, if it's an optometrist, I will make that appointment. I will go. I honestly like enjoy going to the optometrist, but if it's the dentist, I will do everything in my power to just not go to that despite the fact that I need to. So I almost feel like I have a scale of like completely avoid as much as possible to, yeah, this one's fine, I'll do it whenever. And they all kind of fall between that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you heard me. Gastroenterologist. I feel like I've been screwed over too many times by that specialty. And I haven't seen my rheumatologist in a hot minute, and by a hot minute, I mean like 2 years. So there are some phone calls I definitely have to make.
Thank you for reminding me. I need to make a dentist appointment that I've been canceling and putting off to not want to go.
That is seemingly the name of the game here. So if you are putting it off, what do you try to do to make yourself get to that appointment or make the appointment? I know for me, I try to find providers that have like online webs, like portals that you can submit for appointments that way. And I always hate when they have to follow up with a call to confirm that appointment, but at least that initial step by me has been taken outside of a medium that I just avoid anyways. Even if it wasn't the doctor, I avoid making phone calls. So that's one of the ways. And then the other thing is once I do make that initial appointment, I won't leave the office until I make the follow-up, because when I'm in person and I'm there and I'm in that space, it's much easier for me to be like, all right, we'll just keep the ball rolling, as opposed to leaving and then trying to restart the process again.
Yeah, I really relate to the have to be in person to like get it done, or you're like, well, I'm here, it has to happen. I actually, last night was the first time that I went to an acupuncture appointment and didn't schedule my next appointment because I have to force myself to call the practice's billing office to get codes for like insurance reimbursement. Just going back to insurance and how that's an added like so thankful for it, but I hate talking to them. But so I'm not allowing myself to schedule another acupuncture appointment. Luckily, also, the assistant there is super nice. I don't mind talking to her on the phone, but I'm not allowed to go again until I make that billing phone call. And I love acupuncture, so we're going to see what happens.
I mean, that's already extra anxiety when you have to like if it's one of those things where you have to resubmit to insurance, or you have to be like, "Hey, this isn't just automatically covered. I have to get this bill in full and then resubmit it to insurance to hope that they cover it, and maybe they will, but then I have to get the code and do this and send this." Like that's already the extra stress of why can't it just go through, but you have to do the extra work, and it's just so frustrating and anxiety inducing, the process of it all with insurance.
I also, though, I will add that I actually got some really good tips from, I wish I could remember the name of it, but actually from a Mighty Story recently about tips for like making that insurance phone call or calling the pharmacy and everything. And one of the biggest tips was to make it a priority first thing. I'm kind of that person who, all right, I get my coffee in front of me, I have my planner, and I'm like, I can take on the world. As the day goes on, I feel less like I can take on the world. So I try to make those calls in the morning. And also, it's like right when these companies open. So you're kind of the first person on the line. I also really like the tip of taking notes and like preparing your notes in different colored pens that are fun because my brain loves that. And I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, that's funny. If I don't make that call before 11 a.m., it's not happening today. And I actually, like, just this morning, I had 2 appointments on my to-do list that I was going to call about this morning, first thing. And it was around, say, 1:30 today. And I was like, well, let's move those over to tomorrow because it's not going to happen this afternoon. It's not. My brain's not there. Yeah, that's a really good plan. It works for me, doing it first thing in the morning. I think the biggest thing that I found to look for is, similar to what Ashley was saying about having like an online portal or something. I will, if at all possible, avoid dealing with any providers who don't have a contact form on their website and some form of just digital communication. So like my dentist, they text. It's great. They text me reminders. They text me, hey, you're overdue. I can just text them and say, hey, I need to reschedule. And there's actually someone texting me back. It's not just an automated reminder. It's like it's an actual text. That's amazing. I love it. It's super helpful. My new doctors that I'm having my first appointment with in a few weeks, yay, they had a contact form on their website and I filled it out and they responded the next day, which I think is really key too, that quick response time of like, I'm reaching out to you because I'm ready, right? Like it has some urgency to me. And so having some kind of like response time that is within that kind of urgency feeling, it doesn't need to be immediate, but like within a day or two. I don't want to wait 3 weeks to get an email back because then that whole time I'm wondering, did they go through? Do I need to make a phone call? It's still there, right? But yeah, like I don't like the online chats as much because I would prefer to use my phone and the website chats don't work as well. I try to work with providers as much as possible who have that kind of functionality.
Well, thank you all for sharing some of those both experiences and some of the ways you've tried to get through it. And I do hope that we all make that next appointment tomorrow. Hope for the best in following through on them. But if you want more conversations like this one, subscribe to Mental Health Matters by going to bit.ly/mhinbox. That's bit.ly/mhinbox. We'll see you in your inbox. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.